Georgie and Mandy's first marriage Frasier reference explains its biggest change and insults young Sheldon in the process. In the realm of television, crossovers and references often bring hidden layers of meaning and subtle commentary that enrich a show's plot, offering a layer of complexity that dedicated fans can appreciate. One recent instance of such an occurrence takes place in Young Sheldon, where the character Georgie Cooper's marriage to Mandy is both a pivotal plot point and a symbol of his growth as a person. This relationship, and the challenges it brings, provides fertile ground for exploring the transition from youth to adulthood, and how those changes often come with a re-examination of one's past and present. However, in the most recent season, an unexpected reference to Frasier, the beloved 90s sitcom, provides a surprisingly sharp critique of both Georgie's development and the dynamics of his relationship with Mandy, while also indirectly poking fun at young Sheldon itself. The integration of this reference not only reflects the subtle brilliance of young Sheldon, but also highlights its narrative ambitions, using a well-known pop culture touchstone to underscore the growing pains Georgie experiences in his personal life. The Frasier connection. In the first major narrative shift after Georgie's decision to marry Mandy, viewers are treated to an oddly placed, yet deliberately chosen Frasier reference. For those familiar with Frasier, this is a sitcom known for its cerebral humor, sharp wit, and multi-layered characters. It is often about the complexities of human relationships, especially within families, and features several moments of self-reflection and existential musings from its central characters, Frasier Crane and his brother Niles. In the case of Georgie and Mandy's marriage, the reference centers on Frasier Crane's infamous advice about the pitfalls of marriage. Specifically, in one episode of Frasier, Frasier gives his brother Niles a piece of advice that goes something like this: "You don't marry the person you think you should, you marry the person who changes you." This line, often delivered with a knowing smirk, speaks to the core theme of Georgie's marriage, the idea that he is no longer the young, carefree individual he once was, and that Mandy's presence in his life will inevitably alter the trajectory of his personal development. Georgie, who has spent much of his adolescence skirting responsibility, finds that marriage brings with it not only emotional maturation, but also a series of challenges that force him to grow. Mandy, as Frasier's reference suggests, is the one who will change him, but not in a way that Georgie might have anticipated. Instead of the transformative experience being a smooth, blissful journey toward maturity, Georgie finds himself overwhelmed by the practical realities of married life. As Frasier's line implies, growth often comes through discomfort and confrontation with one's weaknesses. In Georgie's case, the pressure of a young marriage does more than mature him. It exposes his immaturity, insecurities, and a deep sense of vulnerability that he never had to face before. This Frasier reference, by alluding to Niles's difficult path toward realizing his own emotional shortcomings in his relationship with Daphne, cleverly parallels Georgie's experience. Niles, much like Georgie, learns that marriage is not about the idealized version of romance, but about partnership, compromise, and self-awareness. As Georgie contemplates his own relationship with Mandy, it's clear that he too will need to change, not just for Mandy's sake, but for his own. And therein lies the comedic irony. Georgie, who has long considered himself a man in terms of being able to handle relationships, is forced to confront how unprepared he truly is for the complexities of marriage. The critique of young Sheldon. While the Frasier reference sheds light on Georgie's personal growth, it also serves as an indirect critique of young Sheldon itself. The show has long been positioned as a vehicle for Sheldon Cooper's eccentric genius, his social awkwardness, and the early roots of his eventual transformation into the character seen in The Big Bang Theory. However, the focus on Georgie's early adulthood in young Sheldon highlights an aspect of the show that often gets overlooked: the exploration of Georgie's character has always been a bit of a comedic side story compared to Sheldon's central arc. By bringing in the Frasier reference, young Sheldon makes a self-aware statement about its own narrative limitations, especially in regard to Georgie's role. While Sheldon's genius was often the central focus, Georgie's misadventures in love, family, and identity were often played for laughs, underscoring his lack of maturity. The Frasier reference cuts through the noise, implying that Georgie's relationship with Mandy is, in a way, more complicated and significant than Sheldon's intellectual journey. Georgie's marriage becomes a prism through which we see his growth, something that is more emotionally resonant than Sheldon's relatively static intellectual pursuits. The irony here is that young Sheldon, a show about the precociousness of youth, ultimately offers more complex, mature commentary through Georgie's relationship than it does with Sheldon's development as a young genius. By using a Frasier reference, the show not only elevates Georgie's narrative, but also subtly critiques the way Sheldon's intellectual journey sometimes overshadows more grounded emotional growth in the series. Insulting young Sheldon. In the process of this witty reference to Frasier, there's a hint of a critique aimed squarely at Sheldon himself. Throughout young Sheldon, Sheldon's intellect often alienates him from his family, causing a disconnect that the series plays for humor. While Georgie, who starts off as a carefree and somewhat bumbling character, is now facing the complex, messy reality of adult relationships, Sheldon's life is still centered around his academic pursuits, leaving little room for the kinds of messy emotional growth that Georgie is now experiencing. The Frasier reference, with its suggestion that growth is tied to emotional challenges rather than intellectual ones, subtly mocks Sheldon's immaturity in an amusing way. While Sheldon's intellectual growth is of great significance to the narrative, the show quietly suggests that true growth is something far more complex and messy than just mastering a subject like physics. In essence, Georgie's first marriage represents a crucial shift in the narrative structure of young Sheldon, signaling that the show may be ready to explore more emotionally mature themes. While Sheldon is stuck in his cerebral bubble, Georgie's growth is about learning how to navigate the messy, unpredictable world of relationships, a theme that Frasier so often explored. Conclusion. The unexpected Frasier reference in young Sheldon functions as both a tool for character development and a self-aware commentary on the show's evolution. Georgie's journey into marriage and adulthood is framed through the lens of the Frasier quote, which suggests that true growth is driven by emotional change rather than intellectual mastery. At the same time, this reference serves as a subtle critique of Sheldon's academic-focused life, indirectly suggesting that emotional maturity, as seen through Georgie's experience, is perhaps the true mark of adulthood. The show's clever use of pop culture references not only deepens its narrative, but also serves to critique its own central character in a humorous yet poignant manner.